The Flash, number 7, written by Francis Manapul and Brian Buccellato, art by Francis Manapul. We left off last issue with Captain Cold attacking, Patty and everyone being involved, and Patty nearly falling to her death. Seemingly actually did falling to her death. This issue picks up with the moments right before that, and Flash is like, just gushing over Patty, like, man, she's so cool and cute, and she smells good, and she's cute, and she's falling into her death, and that's all because of me, but she's cute. And then we see a 2-page full spread recap of the last 9 seconds before the last issue ended. And we see that, no, actually, despite the fact it definitely ended with Barry just being stuck underneath Cold, turns out with 2 seconds to spare, he pushed Cold off of him and then went and saved the ship. So, yeah. And of course, all those like monitor things that were set up last issue of him not using too much of his speed force energy, he's talking about how he's totally ignoring them right now, and he knows he shouldn't be, but regardless, he is. So he saves the people who are going to be crushed by the ship, and as he saves Patty, Patty's like, Barry? And he's like, Barry was safe. He was in the other half of the ship. He's over there. And she goes, no, Barry, oh God. And as Flash looks behind him, it turns out that him hitting 100% on those numbers caused a wormhole to open up that was sucking up the half of the ship that had Iris and theoretically Barry in it. So he runs after it. He tries jumping up to catch him because it's a wormhole up in the sky. And he just can't get a grip on Iris's hand. And they all disappear. And he's like, oh my God, I totally screwed that up. I need to take this out on someone. And he fishes Captain Cold out of the ice and just starts wailing on him. He's like, why did you do this? Bam, bam. And he's like, because your little EMP thing is the reason my sister isn't going to get medical care. He's like, are you serious right now? There are thousands of people out there who don't have medical care. I'm sorry you think this is on me, but it ain't. How dare you put other lives at risk? You are, oh God, you are pissing me off. So as he leaves Captain Cold for the authorities, he's like, that's not the way. But don't worry, I may not be able to affect what has happened, but I can shape my future. And then we go over to Dr. Elias's lab at the something or something. It has a sign there, but I can't read it. And he's basically telling Dr. Elias, like, all right, I'm going to use this treadmill thing. We're going to power up all the cells. When we do, I need you to promise that one of these cells is going to go to Lisa. Is that her name? Snart? I don't know. Whatever Cold's, Lisa Snart. Because he's made a promise to Captain Cold, I guess. And he's like, all right, cool. So here's what you got to do, Barry. You got to run really fast, but once the cells hit 100%, they'll stop absorbing your energy. So you have to stop before then when that big red light comes on. Got it? And he's like, I gotcha. And he starts running, and he's like, okay, but I'm not actually going to stop because the only way that I'm going to be able to save all those people I let go through the wormhole is if I also go through the wormhole. So I'm just going to make another wormhole. So he runs super fast. He charges up all the cells, and then he runs through the wormhole. We get just a page of a bunch of talking gorillas in Africa who are like praising that there's a lightning storm or something, and there's a spiritual ones who are like, of course, the second coming is it is upon us, brothers. And then there's like a militaristic group off to the side who are like, they're so stuck in their old ways. And that's just a page. That's something we'll get to later, I suppose. Meanwhile, in Central City, he kept his word, and one of the fuel cells was used to help Lisa get her operation. And Snart, he sees that and he's like, it's okay, sis, I'm here. And she's like, after all the shit you put me through, you should have left me dead. So, that's a bummer. Then we cut over to Director Singh's office, where Patty's coming over basically just to grieve, but like she was already at someone else's apartment for grieving. She's here because she didn't want to grieve anymore, but like she needs to. She's talking to the director and saying, like, man, the power's still out. This is all the Flash's fault. The Flash sucks so hard. God, I hate the Flash. Oh, God, I never told Barry I loved him. Boo-hoo-hoo. And as she's crying in Director Singh's shoulder, all the lights in the city come back on because Flash's fuel cells are that efficient. Additionally, just because I know it'll come up later, they have a little shot of a whole bunch of flutes at Singh's apartment. But he doesn't play the flute. So they're not his. That'll come up. I'm sure it will. Regardless. Then we see what happened to Barry. He sees like his whole life just in a weird time spiral thing. And he's like, oh God, I'm seeing my life flash before my eyes. Am I dead? And someone grabs him by the shoulder and says, not yet, but you will be if you don't get me out of here. And we see this dude in like this weird light suit thing. And that's all the best I could describe. We'll see him on the cover next month. But regardless, it's good. It's a fine issue. I think that the fact the first like 5 pages of it are dedicated to stuff we already knew seem a little bit weird. Like, at least they used it for a bit of character development in the way of how Barry feels about Patty, but at the same time, it's just like, okay, but yeah, we know the ship was falling, and you spent like 4 or 5 pages just doing that again. It just felt like they kind of wanted to end this issue with him getting into that wormhole, and then we'll pick up with what happens inside of it next issue. But then they didn't have enough to really fill the interim. So, I don't know. I'm just a bit iffy. Also, this is an issue that doesn't really have much of a fight, which I kind of appreciate, but it also does leave it feeling a bit empty as an issue in terms of moving things forward. I don't know. It's good. It's a good issue. It's solid. It sets a lot of stuff up. It does a lot for where we're going from here. If anything, I would say this is probably the start of the next arc, despite the fact we've got a couple issues left in this trade, but it just feels a little bit hollow for some reason. So overall, I'm going to give this it's a low 7, but still a 7. And most of that is the art and the layouts and just how fantastic it looks throughout. So yeah, I'm down with where it's going, but this particular issue was like, okay, yep. We ended that bit very quickly with Captain Cold because I guess we just needed a Captain Cold story, but now we're moving on to this wormhole other dimension story. So let's just see what happens when we get there.